welcome back on this channel. It's an unusual view. I'm here together with Samuel,
Hi everyone.
and we actually got the opportunity to cast some of the matches of the current Duel Commander League that's hosted by MTG Prime. That's a name to almost anyone in the scene, I would say. They're hosting the French Duel Commander Championship that is yearly held. And they had a great idea, in my opinion. They gathered some professional players from the French scene, or very good players. Some of them are professional, some are very good with a great record. And yeah, they're playing against each other in the league on MTGO. You see all the decks that either of them is playing. And here on the left side, we see the ladder that was, or the matchups that were played last week. And on the right side is the current ladder, the standings. And today we're going to have a look at the matchup between Grist and Atraxa. Leo Facca is a name to anyone who's into Atraxa. You also played against him at the Relic Fest.
Yes, great player.
Yeah, definitely. And Noham Maubert is also a known player in the community. Also, lots of top 8 finishes. And yeah, he's on Grist. I'm really excited about the match. The result is already out. If you want to know that, head over to MTG Prime. Intentionally, for those that are not aware, I did not include it here because, we want to have some excitement about it. So let's jump right into the match. All right. We are back with the first round. And as you can see, we're looking at Noham's hand. So we're having a look at the game from his perspective. And it seems that he has a mulligan on 6. And this seems to be a decent hand, I would say, against control. We have the bolt proof Dork on turn 1.
Exactly. That's
That's
a very good position to be in. Drawing his third land there as well. Uh, for as Felix mentioned earlier, the results are already but I have not been spoiled yet, so I don't know how this matchup is going to go. Two
which
mana open
is,
from the control deck is always
ooh.
a strong line to go into.
And here's a good top deck against a control deck. It's Hogak. Now playing Grist, which will likely get countered, I would say.
Well, no,
Mm,
he's playing an endurance end of turn,
you can
so
also do that, yes.
he's blanked one set of mana. We're in Leo Facca's turn. He has missed a land drop and
That's
is
crazy.
probably going to counter this endurance. But if it resolves, that's already starting to clock him. And now, if it either way, he gets to um, now cast an Inquisition and then his commander,
Yeah,
which should put
very
him
good.
quite far ahead on board and in the game state. No land again. I think,
Ooh,
yeah, the
base of
leyline
action.
binding doesn't seem
Ooh.
too strong. Evasive action is a miscalc currently.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Arcane Signet is the card that will let him get out of the situation. So taking it here, probably the correct choice. Going all basics, does Grist play anything to kind of deal with that? I don't think he plays a Winter Orb, so
I think it's because of
um
Earthcraft, maybe. That's,
oh yeah, that
I
makes sense.
mean,
But with one swamp
yeah,
in play,
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. I
So
mean,
what I was thinking about was contamination, but it doesn't care about basics or non-basics,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that can't be the reason.
Yeah,
So here
we
we
see
have
an
an
Oko
Oko.
now.
Yeah, kind of cute, to be honest, in that
Oh,
spot.
well, it does prevent Hogak. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Grist does not do a lot to pressure Oko.
Grist actually kills Oko because there is
Oh,
an
it does
insect on the
actually. Never
board,
mind. Yeah,
right?
he can just sack. Yeah, never mind. I'm
So
uh
I mean,
blanking on
we
that.
saw Leo's hand, and there was not much else to do. because he could have kept open the evasive action, but as you said, it's a miscalculation still because he played a reflecting pool, so that's not too crazy.
Yeah.
Cryptic command is blocked, leyline is blocked, damn is sorcery speed, so you're left with casting Oko. I mean, it's all he could do at that point, so not too crazy.
Yeah, there is the
Yeah, now
consideration if he casts Hogak this turn, he is kind of leaving himself open um, to a board wipe that would start coming down next turn if he draws a land for the dam. Um,
that's true.
well, yeah, it will be interesting, but he's decided not to commit the Cankerbloom into the board wipe, so he can put 6 power on the board directly next turn.
Yeah, and also because, you know, if your opponent draws a land, the Wrath is definitely played, I guess.
Yeah, I would say think so
And
too.
there's no reason to throw the Cankerbloom into that in addition.
There is a
And
pass,
unfortunately, there
so
is no land. So a fifth unknown card,
and an
and now,
Eternal Witness milled, which makes the White of the Reliquary one bigger already.
yeah.
Also, a white, uh, as a vigilant creature, a pretty strong kind of setup card to enable landslines.
Mhm.
He still has lethal through the food cracking next turn. So if there's no land drawn, this will be a short game one.
Oh,
Ah, it's a
and it's a
tapped land.
tapped land. That's bad.
The tapped land does, however, make Hogak make it one more type. So Leyline Binding only costs 3 mana now.
That's true.
Um, and if
But you know, now there is the end of turn endurance, and I mean, Leyland Binding does give you another phase actually, because Anchor Balloon comes down if it resolves, which is very likely. Your opponent plays a Leyline Binding, and then it gives summoning sickness to Hogak more or less.
yeah,
Mm, but yeah,
so yeah, I'm guessing that we will see the Leyline Binding now because um, that does mean that the White of the Reliquary is not open to sack the Hogak in response.
oh, and there's even a Bloodghast. That's better. Gets better and better. So he can actually drain, and there's a concession, and that might make sense.
Yeah, he
Just
can
drain
if
some
he has a
life.
land drop, if he
Yeah,
can
exactly.
drain with the Deathrite to give the Bloodgust haste.
And then it's not even
And
enough to get rid of the Hogak in that very turn.
yeah, and
So
it's all a difficult situation because there's still Grist around, and Grist will still keep making 1/1s for the Hogak to return to play. So I think
definitely.
it's a might have been a bit of an early concession because he wasn't dead quite yet with the ley line. But what are you gonna do? It's still
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's been a while that we've seen Grist overall. Mm, I like the idea, and it's a very fitting one that you play Besiege in the 99. Really,
yep,
really good card here, really good tutor. Especially because if you have a look at Noam's list, he is featuring a Luren combo with a Zerorak, which also got improved due to the addition of Formidable Speaker.
yep.
I'm pretty sure he runs it. Mm, and yeah, Besiege is a card that can search Alluran, cast it right away, can find lots of silver bullets that you run in the 99 that synergize very well. Earthcraft, contamination, whatsoever. Skull
And
Clamp
Grist
might be a bit
itself,
too overpriced, but yeah.
I mean, if you have a bunch of guys on the board and drawing cards is your main priority, then suddenly
Yeah, if you
I
pay
mean,
5
Skullclamp is
mana to
great
draw 2
in
cards, I don't know. We-
I mean, but then again, afterwards you will
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
initially you pay 5, but at some point you'll have paid 8 mana to draw 8 cards and then 9 mana to draw 10. So, um, yeah, there is a relevant cost to board presence when you do start skull clamping creatures, but at some point, you there's a game state where that the cards in hand are better than the creatures on the board.
Definitely, yeah. So, lots of value in hand. Abrupt Decay is definitely helpful against Camille. If I mean, deploying survival has priority here, and you still have mana open. So, definitely a thing. I mean, you could think about trading an insect for Grist, right? Orcish Bowmaster? Yeah. Another target for Abrupt Decay.
And probably trading the Orc army for the insect or letting
I
it
would,
go through. No, trading the Orc army for the insect, yeah.
yeah, because now you would be forced to sacrifice your Dork if you want to use the minus ability on Grist.
Yeah.
Which you can think about. Instead,
Uh,
he chooses to go for the Dismember. Also fine. Life is very much a resource in this matchup for Grist.
And I think there's also value in keeping the Abrupt Decay over the Dismember
Yeah.
with the thought, okay, I get to blank some of my opponent's counter mana. This turn he can play a land. He has Chord for 2 and Abrupt Decay open, or Chord for 4. We'll see what he decides to go for, but all that in order either the opponent taps out for like a Memory Deluge or a Rakshas's Bargain,
Oh, that's
or
nice. And
he
now
gets a
you can. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, your opponent plays end of turn, some card advantage, and you have a proper response to that.
Yeah.
Definitely good. You would not play the Besiege into the open field, but we just talked about the Alluring combo. He basically has it. You just need to find a creature to pitch to survival, and the Besiege will find you Alluring, and that would win you the game.
Yep.
So there is a Veil of Summer
Oh,
to
interesting
protect the
Veil.
Bowmaster. That's very interesting. Okay. Still does not deny the draw, but
Well, it does deny the draw
it does deny the draw. Well,
because
but
the ability only has
yeah,
one
right, right, right,
target
yeah, yeah.
and it fizzles.
True, 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 true. But how did
Interesting.
he? Yeah,
Sorry? He drew one card because he sacked the Boreal Druid.
didn't he play the
To
Veil of Summer in response of targeting the Orcish Bowmaster, or he had a second
Yeah,
creature to sacrifice?
exactly. He
Okay, yeah,
sacrificed one insect uh, and then the Boreal Druid.
yeah, fair enough.
Oh,
And that's
Teferi
what drew
bouncing
him a card.
Yawgmoth is a pretty strong line
Yep,
here,
absolutely.
especially with mana open still.
But it also enables the survival, which is
Was
yet not
already
super
enabled with the
crazy.
Skoos.
That's true. Um, by the time we had a look at this, was not yet the case. So the cards are not too crazy here. He decides to go for the. Ooh, that's a Vanchitong
Oh,
in
a one
response.
Shitong.
Okay, but that's
So I think
actually
this will eat the Abrupt Decay, right?
no. You now
No?
you can combo. Now you can combo. You, all your
Okay.
opponent
Yeah,
could
fair enough.
play is a Force of Negation,
Yeah.
and this way he can search for Azarak and yeah, make the token cast Besiege, and it should win him the game. I mean,
Yeah.
unless Leo has some interaction for that.
You haven't seen anything?
Yeah, it resolves. You can still counter the target.
Wait, what? Ah, I think so. We see what happened here.
Clicking
He
too fast.
cannot. Well, no, I think
Oh,
you can't.
Teferi.
Yeah, you
Teferi,
can't
right?
put the Alluring on the stack with Teferi in play
That's true.
because that's part of the text
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, of the Besiege would be to put the spell on the stack. It's the same with something like Cascade doesn't work with Teferi in play, and um, also Yeah, there are other spells, but yeah, Teferi does counter Beseech very well, and I think he was not aware of that, unless he thought, okay, well, I'll get to resolve my Lure at some point. But at that point, I don't think it was worth um, letting two cards go into the one sheet hole.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think
I was just
this
about to
this
say, Leo drew
most likely
2
an
cards
honest
off of that.
mistake.
Yeah, I would say I think so too. Actually, when I talked about it, I didn't think about the fairy interaction
Yeah. Oh,
either,
Temple of
so
the False God,
happens. Oh, there's a
the
dream
Dream
holes.
Halls.
So now Atraxa plays their Luren, more or
But
less.
that is a desperation play, right? Like,
I'm not so sure. I
well,
mean,
well, it means to me that he had 4 mana or 5 mana with the Temple, um, that he did not want to risk. Like, if he has a counterspell for the Alluran, um, then he's fine, right? So,
yeah, I mean,
so
it seems to be the most optimal play that he can go for, if that's what you mean. I get that, but
no, I don't think so because you are risking many spells coming down with 5 cards in hand. As survival, you're giving the opponent quite a bit with the Dream Holes. So I would see this play
you're
as
looking
a
at this
he
from okay, yeah, yeah, I
like
can see where you come
what
from.
is why would you give the opponent a Dream Holes if not you don't have an answer to the Alluran or the Azera combo? He's drawn 4 cards there, two cards off the one shitong. He had
Mhm.
4 cards in hand before casting the Dream Holes,
Yeah,
and yeah,
that's
now we
a
see a
very
grief.
strong interaction. You have the survival that can search yourself a Thoughtseize due to the grief. Um, Funny that you would either exile or discard a card to cast
Yeah,
grief.
look at that, all lands. The Force Spike wouldn't have done it
Yeah,
against just casting the Alluran.
that's
So
unfortunate.
the Chaos guy will go here. He can't cast the Force Spike, uh, and he gets to just discard the Skoos to cast the Alluran, and then. But I mean, he could take whatever. He can't cast. He has no mana, and the Dream Holes doesn't do anything because they're all different colors.
Yeah, and I mean you
So
can cast the Alluran by discarding the Goose, so Force Spike would be inactive again, but there is no need to do that. And this seems to me like the end of this game too.
yeah,
A rather quick finish, both games in about 20 minutes. I would have
yeah.
not
This
expected it, to
is
be honest, but I think from back in the days, I mean, Grist is not the most popular choice anymore, but we all know that once it resolves, you find a window to get it down. It's one of the harder permanents to deal with. It's not the creature. You don't have all the interaction spells against that. So
yeah. And
and the
Aterak,
and the
this is a combo that you don't want to be playing in Magic Online, as we're
yeah,
seeing.
very true.
I think it's like 30 plus clicks in order to drain 1 life. Um, and although they are playing with 50-minute round timers as opposed to the 20 that you play with in leagues, uh, there's a lot of time in one's life that will go to clicking on Aterak over and over again.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think he's probably either he's typing in the chat
yeah. He
demonstrating a
was. I
loop.
think he
I'm
was
gonna drain 1 life
exactly.
and do this 100 times. Um, we'll see. We'll see if
Yeah, that should end
Leo
in a
concedes here.
concession here on Leo's side. Definitely, Hogak in the first game was definitely a good draw here. Definitely benefited his overall game plan and also making or like giving the appropriate pressure, before Atraxa comes down and starts not
Yeah,
trading with Hogak, but oh,
yeah.
actually,
I mean, the first
it
game
will
I think
trade due to the
mostly
death
came
touch, but
down to a lack of lands.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, there was some critical hand disruption, but sometimes in these decks you do keep a land light hand and you just don't see any lands, which is not statistically likely, but it is something you have to deal with, and the cards in hand didn't play too well with the landlight hand. That's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yep, that's true. But still, cool game. Thanks a lot for tuning in. If you want to see more matches, head over to MTG Prime. The channel is linked down in the description. The matches are also casted by Cleomin and his casting partner. They are in French, but still, matches are enjoyable. And if you want to see some of the other league matches, head over there. Apart from that,
Absolutely.
thanks a lot
I
for
think
tuning in, guys. Yeah.
we are doing more of this, right?
Yes, this is a continuous session, and there will be more matchups in the following weeks. So stay tuned for that,
Yeah.
and see you next time.
More great
Bye
Magic to
bye.
look forward to. See you next time.